I was just, I can't spell. I just, yeah, it's a Wednesday. Kyle saved me. Brian saved me. Mm-hmm. We're back with Ameren, Illinois, and great to have you guys in the studio. Kyle, first time on the show, and glad to meet you.
Yep, good to be here.
And take me through your background with Ameren a little bit.
So I've worked at Ameren 24 years. Started out as a lineman, apprentice lineman up in Macomb, Illinois. Topped out became a journeyman lineman, moved into Beardstown, a little bit of Jacksonville. Became a supervisor in Pittsfield, and to my current state where I'm superintendent of electric operations, and my office is currently in Beardstown, Illinois. I currently have responsibilities for all the inspection programs in Illinois. Our group is what we call subject matter experts in the avian protection. We do a little bit with drones. My group's in charge of that. Work with the mutual assistance to get us outside resources when we have storms.
Well, and now take me through what that could look like, in the impact of, a storm or impact of a significant weather event, because we are going to talk more about the program, but that is fascinating. Can we dive into that a little bit, what your operation looks like?
Yeah, so basically what we do on the mutual assistance front is, if we have a storm of a magnitude that we don't have enough resources at Ameren, Illinois, and we've tapped out our Ameren, Missouri resources as well. The mutual assistance front, we will reach out to other utilities and solicit whether internal or contractor resources to help supplement our workforce.
Fantastic. And it's good just to know a little bit more about that, Brian, too. And the more, Kyle, we talk about the programs and just get the public a little bit more informed, I think it's a really great thing just to know more about Ameren overall. And as we talk about this Avian Protection Program, what makes it so important, I think, is the first and primary question I have.
Yeah, so I think really it's kind of a twofold approach. But number one, we're being stewards of our environment. Number two, being stewards of our environment because we're trying to do the right thing and not kill birds, eagles, hawks, all the type of bigger raptors. The second thing is by having an avian protection program, when we have a bird that gets electrocuted, that generally will cause an outage. Now, that could be one customer or it could be several customers. Mm-hmm. So by taking that double-sided approach, that number one, we're trying to be stewards of the environment, not kill any birds, not have any electrocutions, but it also reduces outages, which is a direct impact to our customers.
Well, I'm sure it is. And I'm sure also for everybody within Ameren, whenever you have one of those related outages, it could lead to some frustrations just within, the crew, because those are, one of those things, I guess, that happen, but you plan on them, but you don't necessarily, because you can't predict when these could occur. Yeah,
that's 100%. We can't read the mind of birds.
Right.
So, yeah, and it is frustrating. And like I said, depending on the impact of where it is, whether it's on our subtransmission line or distribution line, it could be one or two customers, or it could be 1,000 customers. So, by us taking this approach that we're going to build everything avian safe, it really is a direct impact to our customers.
Well, and take me through a little bit of the measures, if we could, and just a little bit of what you guys do overall, when it comes to this.
Yeah, so over the past 15 years, I think we've installed 92,000 new distribution structures that are avian safe. So really, we have a twofold approach, and what it is we have the ability to retrofit an existing structure with plastic guards. But then looking forward, what we did 15 years ago was we said, well, how do we get away from retrofitting? So we developed these avian safe standards that, when we're out building a new distribution circuit, then it will meet that 60-inch requirement. So the birds with the 5-foot wingspan they can't touch both phases.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This is really fascinating. And just to go back, I love the subject matter experts on this too. And I think that is that a critical part when it comes to developing measures like this, or do they have any role when it comes to, just how you guys, design, or how you guys look for new products or new devices to put out there?
Yeah, for sure. So what we do is we partner with some EEI sister utilities, and there's actually an Avian Protection Group. So we'll come together in these meetings, and obviously I think, when we started this, California was a little farther ahead of the curve. I think right now, we're right there with them on this avian protection stuff.
Where do you see it going? From here, do you see more developments quickly? Just off the top of my head, because this is actually really, really fascinating to me. Do you see you guys kind of evolving this at a quicker pace than initially thought?
I don't think I think the involvement's already there, because basically what it is we have the standards in place now. So if the guys show up at the riverfront here at Alton and they got to put up a new pole, it's going to be avian safe. Okay. Yeah. So we've developed these standards over the last 15 years that says, basically these are avian safe structures.
This is really fascinating. Can we take a quick pause in here and come back and let's pay a quick bill?
Yep.
Let's do it. Hey, at 9:36, we'll come back with Brian and Kyle and learn a little bit more about this. This is very fascinating on avian safety. More Daily Show next.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Plenty of car dealers, plenty of options for people to choose from. What's your formula for success, right?
Number one, you got to have a good bank, you got to have a good team, and you got to have loyal customers. It takes all three of those in order to make something work.
Yeah. In a town like the size of ours, a good relationship with our customers is very important. You want them to know this is a place to come, just like you guys want people to know Carrollton Bank's a place to come.
Discover Del Mar Public House, located in Godfrey's historic Clifton Schoolhouse. Enjoy bold flavors like homemade falafel, fish and chips, and rotating pasta favorites. Relax with local beers, half-price wine bottles, and summer poutine nights. The only thing missing is you. Open Wednesday through Sunday. Del Mar Public House, where great food, drinks, and friends come together. DelMarPublicHouse.com.
I just got a new air conditioner. Top of the line.
I bet mine's better. It's so efficient and quiet, I hardly know it's running.
I've got you both trunks. I've got a Linux.
So do I.
Barrett Heating and Cooling carries Linux products to meet any budget. Don't gamble with your energy dollars. Call Barrett Heating and Cooling and start saving today.
Lennox. Innovation never felt so good.
When you need a project done right, on budget and on time, trust Gillahan Concrete. Gillahan handles every kind of project, big and small. Commercial, industrial, residential, from room additions and garages to patios, driveways, and more. Gillahan brings quality and experience to every job. Family owned with over 30 years of service to our community. Call today at 618-781-3914 or visit GillahanConcrete.com.
What's up? It's Mike Keith. What's up, bro? What's good, my guy? Back to spotlight other amazing alumni and how they discovered their path at Lewis and Clark. Let's jump into it.
This is Libby Coots. Libby was a math major who graduated from Lewis and Clark in 2010. She's a math teacher and the girls golf coach at Edwardsville High School. She even has her LC diploma in her classroom and always tells her students how life-changing Lewis and Clark was for her.
I'm Libby Coots, and I'm a trailblazer.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Looking for the best barbecue in Madison County? Head over to Carver's Barbecue in Godfrey, Illinois. From loaded barbecue nachos to mouth-watering pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more, Carver serves up award-winning flavors you'll love. Family-owned, Carver's is all about fresh, made in-house dishes served daily. Come visit us at 2716 Groveland in Godfrey, or give us a call at 618-467-9999. Order online, get it catered, or stop by for the best smoked meats around. Where great flavors meet family tradition, you'll find Carver's Barbecue.
What's up? It's Mike Keith. What's up, bro? What's good, my guy? Back to spotlight other amazing alumni and how they discovered their path at Lewis and Clark. Let's jump into it.
This is Dwight Wirtz, president of Wirtz Welding and Tank Service, the nation's premier distributor of tank trailer parts. Dwight has been an outspoken and long-time supporter of the college and is the current chairperson of Lewis and Clark Board of Trustees. Oh, and he's a Lewis and Clark grad.
I'm Dwight Wirtz, and I am a trailblazer.
Macias Insurance Agency.
Hey, me, what you wanna do?
You guys never thought we were getting out of that commercial break, did you? We did. Back with Ameren Illinois, back with Brian, back with Kyle, and it's really just fascinating to learn more about this program. And like you said during the break, Brian, it's especially this time of year because we're getting ready to have the Eagle Ice Festival in a couple of months. The Bald Eagles are coming, and with the wingspan, that's really fascinating because you guys said how long of a wingspan do they normally have?
It's under 60.
And that's why you guys
under 60 inches, 5 foot. Yeah,
and that's why you guys have them measured that way.
Yeah, so we space all of our conductors out so there's at least a 60-inch clearance between two of them because you don't want to get if the wings would get across two different phases, that would cause an electrocution.
Absolutely. And we were talking about proactive measures and a little bit of the topic before we took a break, and it leads me into these new conversations about flight diverters, and I'm excited to talk about these. What are these?
So flight diverters, the way I'd like to relate them to what the public would really look at is, when you get near an airport, you see these great big balls on the power lines. Mm-hmm. Well, those are so the airplanes can recognize there's a power line there. Okay. So basically we're doing the same thing with birds. We have these nice little, they're really reflective. The birds can see them from a long ways away, like your blue herons and your pelicans. And we have in the past, they'll be flying along, and that top wire, what we call a static on a transmission line, it's fairly small in size. It's not going to be much bigger than my pinky, and they're flying along at a pretty good pace, and they don't see them, and they run into it, and it could kill them. So proactively, we went out and put on these flight diverters, and the different manufacturers make different ones. They all do the same thing. Uh-huh. They have a kind of like the yellowish white, really reflective color to them. Okay. And like I say, it's back to what I think that the public can relate to. We have the balls for airplanes, but these are for birds on a smaller scale, really.
And just to piggyback on that, so your viewers around here know exactly where the Sioux plant is across the river, mm-hmm. and so we have those flight diverters there, and it's greatly reduced the numbers of contacts with the power lines. So just to use another example, the birds that Kyle was describing, move quickly, but it also takes them forever to bank like a plane. So usually in the past, what would happen is by the time they would notice it, there was no way that they could, angle themselves in the air. But now, as Kyle described, with those flashing lights and that, they can see them in plenty of time, and we've reduced those incidents with those kinds of birds.
And you might hear the term also, we call them flight diverters, but I think, the first time that we kind of got into this, the word was used, swan diverters. But they're not only for swans, they're for other birds. Mm-hmm. So you might hear that term too, swan diverters, flight diverters, all basically the same thing. They're putting something that is visible on that small line so they can see it, so it diverts them from it.
Absolutely. And with that being said, too, I want to talk about how you guys do your responsible nest management. I'm sure that because I saw this topic on the sheet, and I'm like, this is fascinating because I'm sure having to work with various groups, on this too a little bit.
Yeah, so we've partnered with the Illinois or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to help them mitigate some of this stuff. We've constructed nesting boxes for them. I know we've done that in in your like state park type areas. We've done it at Banner Marsh, which is state park, Rice Lake, Wren Lake, Anderson Lake. We'll go out there and we'll partner with them. The best, and really the partnership is they're kind of telling us, this is what a nest looks like, and they build it. Where Ameren plays a vital role in this is we have the equipment to get that stuff up high. We have a bunch of bucket trucks and stuff like that. We've also partnered with the Illinois Raptor Center to relocate a nest near the high school or Carlisle High School. We worked with them to relocate that nest. So we weren't doing any harm to the nest.
That's really good to know, too, for individuals that want to know about the removal process. You guys are working in conjunction with these groups that do it the proper way.
Right. And so Kyle, touch upon, too, that, not just a Joe average person, including our linemen, can necessarily go up and remove something. Talk about the process of how we have to be in partnership with the different agencies in order to move that osprey nest or other.
Yeah, and I think there's instances where, yes, we need to, it's kind of like us going up and working on power lines. We are the expert on it. Our guys are highly trained on that. So, we will partner with those folks, and we will get them the proper safety gear and take them up in the double bucket with us so they can help us properly remove it. Obviously, we are not doing any of this around energized power lines. There are no safety risks. We're just providing the equipment, the safety, all that aspect to get them at that level that they need to be. And we also use some other aspects on that. If we have a nest somewhere like on top of a radio tower and we get called in, our own radio towers, our own microwave towers. A lot of times I'll use some of the guys from my team to take a drone and go fly it, see if it's an active nest, and then we'll work with the Fish and Wildlife, the IDNR, our internal environmental group, to make sure that nest has no more activity before we ever remove it.
That's really good to know, too, for everyone out there that's curious about that.
Yep.
Well, and what I think is fascinating, too, is because, you guys have some pretty high-risk areas when it comes to your, the centers and just where some of this equipment is. Take me through how you guys put on some of these protective covers and just that process, because I'm sure the logistics of it have to be a little bit more detailed than one might think.
Yeah, so, as we talked earlier, moving forward, we're building everything avian safe. But it's not necessarily feasible to, in an area like where we're setting down on the riverfront, to go and put all brand new poles in.
Right.
So what we'll do is we'll look at those high risk areas where it's prone for eagle nesting, and we'll go and we'll retrofit them. And that's really what it is we put on a protective cover, either on the center phase or one of the phases of the structure. So if an eagle was to land on there and it had the wingspan to touch two conductors, it's now touching a protective cover and not two energized conductors. So like I said, sometimes it's not cost effective or feasible in these areas where there is a lot of activity to go replace all the poles. So that's why we had the retrofit.
Well, and just real quick for the audience, what's a phase when it comes to that structure?
So typically, and I'm probably talking too much in lineman's terms, but typically when you look up at a structure, there's generally 4 wires. So there'll be 3 up on the crossarm and 1 down lower. So there's 3 phases there up on the top crossarm, and then the neutrals down lower. So
Gotcha.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense, though. I just wanted to make sure and clarify, because I'm not a lineman, man. I don't think I'm cut out for that. But when it comes to what I think is really cool is just the fact that you guys are big on workforce training, too. And it's really good for, again, the public, I think, to note that, because, your guys' work, even though, you're your energy company and everything else, the workforce training, that goes a lot further than what you provide. And I think that's a really good note, too.
So, our biggest value to Ameren's safety. And so how did we incorporate that in? We incorporate it in everything we do every single day. So how do we incorporate avian? So we start at the bottom. So from the first day that the apprentice comes on property and is doing his training, it's incorporated in his training.
Wow.
When we do journeyman refresher training, it's incorporated in there. But also the incorporation of it is when our linemen go out to build a structure, they flip open their standards book, and it's just built that way.
Yeah.
They don't even have to question of like, well, is it got enough spacing so it's avian safe? That's already done. We built that into the standard. So
that's wonderful.
Avian's really built into everything we do on the distribution subtransmission side.
I think it's great. I mean, I really do. I think it's a really important note for that. And when it comes to educating the next generation, I think that's the younger you start, it's always, the better results you get 9 times out of 10. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And what are you guys doing to educate that next gen?
One of the things we do is we're a proud sponsor of the Illinois Raptor Center, the Treehouse Wildlife Center, and the World Bird Sanctuary. These partnerships help us educate the younger folks, to what to look for. So that's one of the biggest things we're doing.
Well, and see, that's why I love that workforce training. We talk about those back to back because it's really important to obviously educate your staff and everybody else, but also the knowledge that they can relay to everyone else that they come in contact with, and that shared knowledge too that they learn from some of these trainings. And just like with what you're doing with these great groups that are all vetted in wonderful organizations, it's really good to know that, hey, Ameren's here to educate not only the folks working for us, but also to make sure that we're keeping everyone as safe as we can be.
Yep. And so piggybacking on what Kyle just said in terms of the school presentations and some of that stuff that we do, we were just in the Alton area about a year ago at one of the local schools. So members of the Raptor Center are here. But what's great about it too is it's a great partnership. Not only do they talk about, they bring different birds of prey, maybe an owl, maybe an eagle, but then they also talk about our program as well. So they do talk to the young kids about staying away from power lines and et cetera. So it's an absolutely perfect partnership between us and some of these organizations that Kyle mentioned.
Well, and before we wrap up here, and I think it's really great for folks that are just tuning in for the first time, maybe doing Ameren. So we've done a ton of these when it comes to power safety and power line safety and education, and take a look at them because they're really good for you and your children to note. But as we're wrapping up here, when we come to avian protection, I got to note, before or after birds, what is the most pesky rodent animal that comes in contact with your all's equipment?
So it's either squirrels and probably raccoons second.
Raccoons?
Yeah. So we do a number of things for outage prevention on those. Like distribution transformers, just your typical one right out front of here. Now we install these squirrel guards so they can't get into the hot bushing.
Gotcha.
We also do what'll look to you guys like you'll see it up on our poles at about 20 foot. It looks like coil stock, like 2 foot of coil stock wrapped around the pole. That's actually a really slick plastic. So as the squirrel climbs up the pole, there's a 2 foot gap there that they can't get past that. So we install that type of stuff. We look at substations, you get a raccoon in there, a squirrel in there. We're not talking about an outage of, 2-3 people. It could be 1,000, 1,500. So we couple of things. We put these things on the wires that go into substation. We call them spinners. And basically just imagine a log in the water and you're trying to stay on the log and it's constantly rolling. That's what these do. It throws the squirrel off so they can't get in our substation. The other thing we do is we put up an animal fence inside of there. We have our external fence outside that's just chain link fence, but then internally, might be 5 foot off there. We have an animal fence that'll, give them a little zap and tell them to please move on.
I like that. There you go.
And what I like best about that in some of the areas where we have close to rivers and such, the fence also keeps snakes out. Believe it or not, we do have snake-related outages in substations.
That makes sense because they want somewhere dry to go, especially when it rains.
And warm.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the equipment in the substation's warm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now, with that being said, is there anything else that comes to mind when we're talking, just simple defenses of our power equipment when it comes to rodents or birds or anything like that, or do we cover it all?
I think we've covered it all. I think the last thing that I'd really like to say, if a member of the public happens to see a bird in our substation, whether it's by no means do we want you verifying whether it's dead or alive. That's up to us. We don't want you going in the substation, but if you see it from a distance, we would like you to report it to us so we can get the proper people out there. We talked about all of our partnerships with the IDNR, the World Bird Sanctuary. We know those people to get them there to respond. Just simply call it in to our 800 number at 800-755-5000.
Really cool. Ryan, anything else for right now?
Nope. Well, I know that we'll be doing some of those school presentations a little bit later on in the fall, so hopefully we will have one in the greater Riverbend area. So some of your listeners and viewers, their kids or grandkids, will hopefully learn about avians and birds of prey in Ameren, Illinois.
And for admin out there that are watching today, what's the best way to get in contact to set something like that up if it hasn't been?
Just, again, use that 800 number, tell them what school you're representative, and they'll get to the right community liaison in a particular area, and just call 1-800-755-5000.
Really cool, Kyle. Thanks for stopping by today.
Yep, no problem.
Brian, nice to see you again.
Good to see you, CJ.
We'll take a quick break. 9:55, come back with the 10 o'clock hour. Lacey McDonald will go back 100 years ago, and then Jody joins us for Vintage Voices right after this on Riverbender and Roku.